Every year, AIA Pennsylvania features a time-tested work of architecture in order to widen awareness of our important cultural assets. This year's 50-Year Timeless Award is especially important because Pennsylvania's most astounding building is surprisingly unknown, hiding in plain view in Harrisburg. Through my travels, I know of scarcely any buildings that exceed the Pennsylvania capital's superabundance of architectural craft and fine arts, either in quality or quantity. That puts it in the league with buildings like the Vatican's St. Peter's Basilica. Colossal construction projects like these are never without foibles. We could talk about how the capital's botched design competition was blackballed by the American Institute of Architects, thereby eliminating almost all experienced firms from the selection process. Or about the final cost that shamelessly exceeded the budget by a factor of 3. Or about the massive corruption scandal whose flames were fanned by a politically vindictive state treasurer. Or about the plight of a young Philadelphia architect, Joseph Houston, who after giving his all to an epic professional challenge, was thanked with a 2-year jail sentence. His true culpability is unknowable, but his is a cautionary tale. We architects can find ourselves playing with fire, and sometimes we're naive enough to play the scapegoat.
To a large extent, the graft scandal was much the result of the politics of the day, and Joseph Houston did end up as a scapegoat, but the architectural design, artwork, artistry, and craftsmanship that went into the building is beyond reproach, and you can see that when you walk its halls. Only the height of the Gilded Age could have produced such a building, between the startling panic of 1893 and the onset of international troubles culminating in World War I. Pennsylvania was the nation's cradle of democracy, and in the first decade of the 20th century was really at the height of its industrial might. We wanted to showcase the best of what we could be, what we could produce, and to showcase the history, power, and success of the Commonwealth, and the Capitol stands as a testament to that desire. The Capitol's architect, Joseph Houston, passionately espoused monumental buildings. He saw these as necessary for the United States to come of age as an international power on par with Europe's. He had taken the grand tour of Europe, shopping for styles he could emulate. In the spirit of the American Renaissance, his Harrisburg masterpiece became an eclectic collage of European Renaissance styles, Italian, French, English, and others. Topping it off is the Rotunda Staircase, which reinterprets Charles Garnier's 1868 Paris Opera in shiny sugar white marble. It sits directly below Michelangelo's Sacred Dome.
The dome is a good case in point. To the eye, it is a literal half-sized replica of Michelangelo's breakthrough engineering at St. Peter's Basilica. Famously, Michelangelo had eliminated traditional stone buttressing by girdling the dome's shell with an iron chain, freeing it to float divinely above a lantern. Over time, such elevated domes became a universal symbol of government power. They are ubiquitous atop American state houses, including Pennsylvania's first Harrisburg Capitol. Designed in 1821 by Stephen Hills, that building's conservative exterior belied its beautiful and influential floor plan, the first to express the nature of bicameral legislatures. Sadly, the Hills Capitol was lost to fire in 1897, but its influence can be seen in the United States National Capitol, whose Pennsylvania-inspired bicameral plan sports the world's most iconic dome, designed by Pennsylvania architect Thomas U. Walters. Houston's Capitol Dome in Harrisburg is the only one designed as an exact miniature of St. Peter's, but the resemblance is only skin deep. Whereas Michelangelo's iron chain encircles a conventional stone shell, Joseph Houston framed the whole thing with Pennsylvania's quintessential commercial product, structural steel. The irony of combining an historicist aesthetic with the state-of-the-art technology is one of the Capitol's defining qualities. That quality makes it the apotheosis of Pennsylvania's sumptuous Gilded Age, fueled by its huge coal, steel, and railroad economy. The irony stands in contrast to earlier uses of imported architectural styles. In a monumental Pennsylvania example, Philadelphia City Hall is clad in French Second Empire dress, but it is an old-fashioned bearing wall building whose tower remains the tallest unreinforced stone structure in the world. By Houston's time, mimicking European styles was slowly becoming passé. Houston would have known that, having worked on Frank Furness's Radical Library for the University of Pennsylvania. And he would have seen how Richardson's Allegheny County Courthouse was revolutionizing popular tastes. In the face of that knowledge, his competition entry was consciously very conservative, but it matched the desires of Pennsylvania's ruling class. Nonetheless, Houston undertook an altogether original initiative. He conceived of the Capitol as, in his words, a palace of art. He managed to garner sufficient support to virtually saturate the building with the best that contemporaneous artists could offer: carved ornamentation, brass fixtures, stone sculptures, stained glass, and painted murals. Oddly, despite the building's stylistic formality, its largest artwork comes from the Pennsylvania folk tradition. The Capitol's floor is paved with 16,000 square feet of handcrafted Mercer tile from Bucks County's historic Moravian tile works, depicting the state's early history and folk culture. Now, in the 21st century, the building receives the meticulous care it deserves, just as if it were one big work of art measuring about 500,000 square feet. Therefore, the AIA also dedicates this award to the Pennsylvania Capitol Preservation Committee, to its dedicated, talented, and full-time staff, and to the preservation architects with whom they work. Through their labors, a century of misguided management and outright neglect has been resplendently reversed. Now, ongoing stewardship stays ahead of the game, operating with the meticulous care that an art conservator might bestow on a Vermeer. The brilliance of this work lies in what one cannot see or can barely be discerned. For example, there's an advanced fire suppression system. However, finding sprinkler heads is like a game of Where's Waldo. With luck, you can spy sprinklers masquerading as garlands, barely distinguishable in the gilded egg and dart moldings. In another example, the building features acres of gold leaf, but also something even more exotic: aluminum leaf. Perhaps that was the latest thing for 1901. It too is being precisely conserved. All this makes the Capitol the ultimate monument to what Pennsylvania was in 1901, and to its keystone role as the nation's powerhouse of capitalism and industrial might. But through its artwork, it becomes something else, equally distinctive. Through the artistry of its iconic storytelling, it is transformed into a secular cathedral of democracy. Among the many important artists who contributed to the Capitol, there is one whose spiritual and social passions were built directly on William Penn's. She is Violet Oakley, and her murals are the Capitol's most potent, pervasive, and persuasive artworks. Joseph Houston was eager to include a female painter, just when the 28-year-old Oakley was stirring up the art world. When they met at her Villanova studio, neither he nor she could anticipate the heights of artistic achievement that lay in store. And Houston couldn't have appreciated that Violet Oakley was the epitome of the new woman, as feminists were then known. With limitless talent, energy, and ambition, she was a convinced Quaker, a pacifist, entrepreneurial, persistent, and very persuasive. But Houston had made a safer choice for most of the Capitol's murals. The celebrated Philadelphia expat in London, Edwin Austin Abbey. After completing the rotunda and the house, Abbey passed away at the very time that Oakley completed the governor's reception room. Prior to her installing the murals, Oakley displayed them at the Pennsylvania Academy of Art, elevating her prestige to rock star levels. Now it would be she who would paint the Senate and Supreme Court chambers. By the end of the day, her 25-year, 43-mural opus spanned 7 governors, none of whom dared to interfere with her provocative social message. She continued painting murals through World War I and into the Roaring Twenties. Reacting to a changing world, she took the occasion to elevate Penn's message to global significance, celebrating its latest manifestation as international law under the new League of Nations. Violet Oakley had become the American Diego Rivera, equaling or surpassing him in the power of her imagery, her cultural erudition, and her mystical mission of worldwide peace and justice. So we are grateful for the architectural passion and persistence of Joseph Houston, who gave us this matchless monument to the majesty of democratic government, his palace of art. And we thank the immortal Violet Oakley for giving voice to that palace, challenging all people to strive for a profoundly spiritual, humanistic, and peaceable civic life.